couple important questions we have to ask ourselves when we're going through a sprint is, are we ready and are we done? Are we ready simply refers to is something ready to pull into our sprint backlog from the product backlog. And are we done is asking the question, what does it mean to when we say we're done? And I kind of look at the whole point of a sprint is to take work that's ready and get it done. So you probably have heard the expression or the term definition of done. And it's really quite important in Agile. Well, it's probably very important in everything. What do you mean when you say you're done? And so we'll take the definition of done for ourselves here first, or Agile in general, as what shape should a work item be in before you can call it done and ask the product owner to accept it, right? If you come to me and say, I'm done, I'm going to ask you, well, how do you know you're done? So we really have to have a common understanding of, geez, what does it mean when you're done? Also, as a team, when you're going through sprint planning and you're determining whether or not you can accept work into the sprint, that you have the capacity to accept that work into a sprint, you need to know what done means such that you can make a commitment. What do you have to do to get ready work to done? What are all the traits and characteristics of something when you say, this is done? Now, for software, we probably want to have working software, right? The Agile Manifesto goes, working software over comprehensive documentation. Well, if we say, I'm done, what does that mean? What does it mean to say, I'm done, I've got working software? It compiled? Well, I hope you're going to go further than that. But typically what I see for a lot of organizations is something along the lines of, the software's been unit tested. I would think that would be pretty prime to say you're done. Hopefully somebody else has looked at it to see if it complies with our coding standards and that somebody else can actually understand that software. And ideally it'd be great if it was installed or at least integrated. It wasn't just compiled and unit tested on your machine, it actually worked with the code libraries. Ideally it'd be awesome if we could go further up the testing food chain and be able to do not only the unit testing, but the functional testing, the regression testing, performance testing, and have supporting documentation. Now this latter part, some organizations, just because of the nature of dependencies and the development environment, can't get that far up the food chain in a single sprint. Don't take it that I'm granting you a get out of jail card free or get out of jail free card that you can get out of this and not worry about it. Your focus should be, how do we improve our development environment so that we could do this in a short sprint? But the point I'm trying to make here, be realistic in your definition of done. There's nothing more frustrating than coming up with an unachievable definition of done. What can your team do in 2 weeks to say you are done? It may be, unfortunately, that yes, these other attributes that say getting the software ready for actual deployment is, in later sprints we do the functional testing, we do the regression testing. That's a debt you're accumulating. And ideally what we'd like to figure out is part of our Agile journey is how do we reduce that debt? How do we reduce the time it takes to do those? So that's just a thought. So the point of all of this is you need a definition of done. The definition of done has to be realistic. And the point of having a definition of done is such that when you go to the product owner and say, I'm done, they know what you mean. And also for you, that when you are delivering the software or when you are planning, you know what you're committing to. You know, what do you have to do to get that software to done? Now, one more thing. Definition of done is not the same as acceptance criteria. Okay, user stories have acceptance criteria on them. These are the conditions that the product owner wants to see before they accept a story. So that's different from what the definition of done is. I would say the definition of done is driven by your engineering standards. When we say software is done, what does that mean? What quality do we have to deliver the software to? So this is the difference. The acceptance criteria are saying these are testable criteria or capabilities that we have to have in this software. The definition of done is really stating to what engineering quality standard do we deliver this story. So I would almost also be willing to say that the acceptance criteria that are they're fulfilled is part of the definition of done. So definition of done and acceptance criteria are not the same thing.